Welcome to the next Spring 2022 episode of VUSportsWired, Vanderbilt Video Productions' premier sports talk show. My name is Bobby Kent, and I am back as your host for the 2021-2022 school year. Today, I am once again joined by Andrew Wilf, Deputy Sports Editor for the Vanderbilt Hustler. We will break down the Vandy boys' disappointing sweep at the hands of the Tennessee Volunteers, discuss the midweek victory over Austin Peay, and preview the upcoming weekend clash with the Auburn Tigers. Vanderbilt Baseball is 21-7 on the season, having dropped the three-game series at home over the weekend to the Volunteers. This comes on the heels of an unexpected series loss away at South Carolina, where Vanderbilt won the first game of the series and proceeded to drop the following two. The Vandy boys have lost two consecutive series for the first time since 2018, which was also the last time they were swept in a series. They find themselves 4-5 in SEC play with a date with the Auburn Tigers this weekend. So Andrew, let's start with the Tennessee series. What did you make of this weekend, and what went wrong for the Vandy boys?
I think it was a mental performance, and I'll tell you why. On Friday night, Vanderbilt's ready to host the number one Tennessee Volunteers, an SEC powerhouse that has only lost one game the entire season. But there's really no sense of urgency, and really the Vanderbilt offensive performance, it didn't look like they really believed in themselves. The whole weekend, only 5 runners make it on base. Sunday, only 2 hits. And that's just not good enough for a team with the best batting when you're playing against a team with the best batting average in the SEC. Those 5 players, Bradfield Jr., who is going to be an MLB star in the next few years, Spencer Jones, Dominic Keegan, Javi Vaz, Carter Young, Colwick, they make it on base, but that's just not enough. And then what I saw from the pitchers, I think, we're really seeing the loss of Nick Maldonado show, and I think Vanderbilt fans are ready for him to come back. Christian Little comes back. He was on absence due to an off-the-field issue that was never disclosed. But I think there's just a sense of lack of consistency. There was a lot of consistency that was going on with Vanderbilt before, and I think it's that the coach, we need to see Corbin really find a lineup that fits this team well, because it's really those midweek games where you see the experimenting, but maybe try experimenting on Friday against Auburn, and we're going to be talking about that a little bit more today. Like, it was against Tennessee where the lineup just wasn't consistent and nothing was really being generated on the offensive end.
Definitely. I mean, and it's also disappointing too in that, this team had put up a lot of runs in prior games. They were a team that, they had, I think they scored 5+ runs in 18 of their 20 wins coming in, 10+ runs 9 different times this season. So to see them only have 4 runs all series is very, disappointing as a fan, and it's kind of that flat, performance that you really wish was sort of a worst-case scenario, and the worst-case scenario kind of came true. There's one thing about this team is I think that they will rebound from this. I mean, I think for the Tennessee Volunteers, this was almost like their World Series, But World Series are not won in March, not won in early April. So it's there's a lot of time for Vanderbilt to get it figured out. And I agree with your point about trying to tinker with the lineup maybe a little bit in maybe the first game of the next series or something, because like you said, we do see a lot in the midweek. But it'd be great to really see Vanderbilt find that lineup that is consistent and that's going to really, from top to bottom, generate runs, generate hits. I mean, you didn't leave a lot of guys on base in this series because you didn't have guys on base to leave on. So, that's disappointing. It was disappointing to see veteran guys like Colwick have no hits, have Young only have 1. You'd imagine that those guys could be able to really work counts and potentially, get base hits and everything. The pitching also was not great this weekend. Chris McElvain only went 4 2/3. Connor Holton went 5 2/3. After only going less than 3 innings against South Carolina.
Right.
So, yeah, go ahead.
And the thing with Carter, he allows a 3-run first inning. That's not how you set the tone on Saturday when you need to win that game when you're down 1-0. And then flashback the day before, McElvain plays fine Friday, but the outfielders had a lot of just errors that you just don't expect for a...
Ball's getting lost in the lights?
Right,
yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I'd never seen that before.
I also don't understand why Vanderbilt implemented new lights in the middle of the season, but that's a different story.
Right.
And then going to Sunday... Patrick Riley played really, really solid. I mean, did allow 4 walks, but it's very tough to set momentum on the pitching side when you only have 2 hits the entire day, and for that matter, maybe 1 or 2 hits by the 5th inning. So I think Riley did really well. I think the pitchers are not the issue. I think it's the batters, and they need to change that narrative really quickly because Auburn's one of the best hitting teams in the country, and that's not something Vanderbilt likes to play against.
No, definitely. I mean, and credit to the Volunteers, as much as it pains me as a Vanderbilt fan to say, but they're a strong team. They have a good lineup from top to bottom. They know how to work counts. There were a number of times where they got the count to 3-2, got it full, where then they were able to make something happen. I mean, they can do a lot of different things, getting on base wise, also playing the long ball. So, they're a very challenging lineup. That probably the most challenging lineup that Vanderbilt's had to face this year. But I think if you're going to look at a positive sense too, the bullpen I thought pitched really well. They only allowed 4 runs all series to the starters 12. So, that's a good thing to look forward to. I mean, that's a good thing, going forward. And then they also had another strong showing in the midweek game, which, turning over to that midweek game, last night on Tuesday, they had a resounding 12-2 victory where many new faces cracked the lineup. So what sort of impressed you, and do you think they can carry it over to the weekend?
I was really impressed with the way Kolwick might be banged up, and same as Young, Bolger, and Vaz. But the hitting from Gordon, he played really well. So did Hewitt and Keegan. 3 hits from Keegan, 3 hits from Nolan, and 3 RBIs from Gordon. So Hewitt's now 11-20 on the season, which is really impressive. But let's talk about Devin Futrell. Really strong pitching. He might not be your weekend starter, but maybe weekday starter, and maybe later on in the season, later on in his career, we can see him more in appearances. And it's about getting those experiences. It's okay if you're playing Austin Peay. A win is a win, and getting those experiences, getting those 1, 2, 3 innings under your belt are really important and pivotal in Vanderbilt pitchers' experiences.
Definitely, and I really love to see Keegan have a strong, have a strong game where he had 3 hits were the amount of hits that he had in the Tennessee series. So that's great to see. Hopefully he can carry that over the weekend. Like you said, Devin pitched really well. I think like you said, he could potentially be someone down the line that we're seeing on the weekend. So this is. And I think Corbin sort of sent a little bit of a message with the team, a little bit of changing up the lineup drastically like he did. But I love to see that personally, and it gives those guys who were a little bit banged up, gives them an opportunity to get some rest. So I think obviously Austin Peay is not as strong of a team as the other SEC teams that Vanderbilt's going to face, but I think it was a good win. And coming off of this, I mean, what do you need to see from Vanderbilt against Auburn this weekend to really feel confident about the rest of the season?
Right, and there's a lot of negative momentum going on right now in West End. Vanderbilt gets swept by Tennessee for the first time in school history when we're talking about baseball, football, and basketball. They lose the 2 consecutive SEC games for the first time since 2018. And Auburn is the second best SEC hitting team, with the, I think, batting average of .302.
Yeah.
What you need to do to bounce back and really play and give that team that same sense of confidence that they had when there was a 18-game win streak was get the bats going. That's what I want to see against Auburn. Auburn played really well against number 2 LSU 2 weeks ago, and what they did well was they can hit. But Vanderbilt needs to take advantage of that. They have no starting pitchers with an ERA below 2. That's pretty rare for an SEC team, but it's about if Vanderbilt can capitalize that, and that's going to be really, really integral in the season moving forward, trying to get a good seed for maybe the playoffs and trying to win these SEC games that before the season I think we wouldn't think of as much in jeopardy.
Definitely. I saw a projection today. I saw Vanderbilt as potentially the 12th national seed. But
Right.
hosting a regional right now. Vanderbilt's going to definitely try to look to increase that, and there's still a lot of time to do that. I mean, this will be a good balance, a good test for Vanderbilt as well. I mean, I feel like we've been saying that every week in the SEC, but like you said, I mean, this team is quietly second in the SEC West in Auburn. They beat number 12 LSU in a series over the weekend. They could very well be ranked right now. So this will be, a good test for them. I like to see the pitching come out strong.
Yeah.
I'd love to see McElvain have a really good start, work deep into the game, sort of manage that pitch count so he can get deeper into the game, take a little bit of the pressure off the bullpen. I'd love to see Connor Holton get his sort of swagger back. I think you allow 7 runs against South Carolina, and then you allow 5 against Tennessee, and especially being a freshman,
And
that kind of shakes your confidence. So
Yeah.
I'd love to see him have a really good outing.
And Carter, a big thing for him, I think it was against South Carolina and a bit of Tennessee. He was tipping his pitches, kind of letting the team know what's going to happen before. And that comes with being a freshman, being more patient and confident in your routine, and there's a reason he's getting the starting nod, and I think Corbin and the rest of the team is behind him, even though he's in a bit of a cold streak right now.
Definitely. But speaking necessarily of a guy who's not necessarily in a cold streak is Spencer Jones, who has an OPS over 1 right now. He's mashing baseballs left and right. I mean, in the game against Tennessee on that Friday game, he had one of 2 home runs, 2 home runs, which were the only runs in the game for Vanderbilt. But and then having 3 hits in the series and a home run. I mean, I think Vanderbilt's going to go as far as he takes them in the batting order. So I'd love to see also other guys step up. Parker Nolan step up. Javi Vaz. And we'll see how Vanderbilt does against Auburn this coming weekend. So go ahead if you have anything else to add.
I was just going to say, every championship team has ebbs and flows this season. There's always a reality check and kind of like a paradigm shift. Your season's going like this, or you're going to be going up or down. And this is the exact moment where I think Vanderbilt fans are going to see kind of the trajectory of their season. I think Auburn, this kind of starts the next phase, and I think Vanderbilt is ready to prove the world wrong and maybe sweep the Tigers.
Ooh, you know what? I like that prediction. And on that note, I think that's a good place to stop. So thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of VU Sports Wired. We will be back next week with more baseball coverage, breaking it all down, hopefully with some good news from the series against Auburn.